In this video, we're covering one of the most critical concepts in long-distance moving, interstate operating authority. Understanding this will empower you to distinguish legitimate qualified movers from risky or untrustworthy companies. Interstate authority is the federal legal authorization that a moving company must obtain to transport household goods across state lines. Any mover that picks up your belongings in one state and delivers them in another is required to hold this authority. To keep interstate authority active and in good standing, a moving company or van line must continuously meet federal standards in several key areas: financial responsibility and insurance coverage, driver qualification, background checks, and safety compliance, vehicle and trailer safety standards, tariff publication and maintenance, consumer protection rules, and regulatory compliance. These requirements exist to protect you and ensure your shipment is handled by a properly qualified, accountable carrier operating under fair and consistent standards. Before 1980, the industry operated under heavy regulation. Competition was limited and pricing was largely controlled by federal mandate. The Motor Carrier Act of 1980 changed everything. Authority became far easier to obtain, competition flourished, and the industry transformed from a high-barrier, controlled environment to an open, competitive marketplace. While increased competition helped lower prices for consumers, it also created an opening for new carriers with minimal professional experience. This shift after deregulation contributed to three significant challenges: a sharp rise in consumer complaints about fraudulent or dishonest movers, a greater need for consumer protection, particularly in the internet era, and it created more inconsistency in service quality, reliability, and claims handling. Here's something critical to watch for. Many companies advertising interstate moving services online do not hold their own authority. They're brokers. Brokers don't own trucks, don't employ drivers, and cannot legally transport your belongings themselves. Instead, they sell your move to a second-tier carrier, often without disclosing to you who will physically handle your shipment. Or they farm it out to a totally unregulated mover with zero interstate authority. These pretend movers transport your shipment on a rental truck. In my opinion, using a broker rather than a legitimate carrier has a high probability to be a lose-lose for consumers. Little or no rules on the front end, and little or no recourse on the back end if things go bad. Take it from me, brokers add no real value compared to working directly with a licensed local mover who is backed by a national van line. Brokers frequently introduce confusion, frustration, and an increased risk of fraud. As part of our agency agreement, Liberty and Arpin RI must use the interstate authority of Wheaton Van Lines for all interstate moves. To avoid fraud, when evaluating a potential mover, always ask the straightforward question before you do anything with them: whose interstate authority will my shipment be transported under? If the company can't prove it definitively like Arpin RI or Liberty can, consider that a serious red flag. My recommendation would be to find another mover right away. Now, you might be saying to yourself, Steve, I don't care about tariffs or interstate authority. I'm only worried about cost. I get it, but the federal government has put provisions in the system to protect the consumer from fraud. Do not turn your back on these protections and expose yourself and your family to some of the worst characters in the world. Here's a tragic story about just such a family's experience with internet move brokers. In my previous career with a major van line, I was forwarded a call from a person inquiring about a late shipment. While I was trying to locate her in our system, she explained what was happening with her move. She and her husband were retiring to Florida and had booked with an online broker who misrepresented themselves as a Rhode Island company aligned with our van line. They were not associated with us and had sold the move to a no-name moving company from a city in southern New Jersey. She had over 23,000 pounds of very upscale furnishings, as well as his and her Harleys in the shipment. basically their whole life in a single tractor-trailer load. The first red flag for me was the broker or their mover's name. After over 40 years in the moving business in Rhode Island, I had never heard of them. The second red flag was the shipment went into storage for 6 months in New Jersey instead of Rhode Island or Florida. The third red flag, and a big one, was the fact that the customer paid a 50% deposit when booking, over $10,000. Real movers never ask for a deposit. If you hear the word deposit, run. The fourth red flag, in addition to thousands in storage fees, she had paid her move bill in full, another $10,000. Now understand, you must pay your storage bill in full before the shipment will be released. That's the industry standard. But she paid 100% of the move before seeing the truck sitting in front of her home in Florida with all her possessions inside. No legitimate movers ask for full payment until they reach destination. Yes, everyone must pay before the shipment is unloaded, but at least you know the movers have fulfilled their half of the bargain and moved your stuff to your new residence. The last red flag, and the gut punch for me, was the shipment was overdue by 10 days and no one from the moving company was answering her calls. The truth was, she was not in our system. She had never been a customer of ours. It was clear to me that she had been misled and had been robbed of tens of thousands of dollars in cash and all of her earthly possessions. Sadly, all I could do for her was to tell her to call the police or the FBI. It was as bad as it gets for a customer. No possessions and no insurance. The fraud movers had a 6-month head start to sell everything that was valuable from her shipment and put the rest in a mini storage somewhere that had the first month's rent free. Then they don't pay the bill, and the poor woman's remaining stuff was most likely auctioned off like you see on TV, or it went into the dumpster. These rogue movers have probably changed their name, website, and phone number 5 times since then, and they're probably still in business today. Her experience was tragic, but it was also very avoidable. You as the customer must do your due diligence. Okay, now that you understand how important both tariffs and interstate operating authority are, you're ready to learn about a unique pricing method used throughout the moving industry, hundredweight pricing. We'll cover that in the next video.